start the broadcast right now. So thank you all who have tuned in for the Twitter webinar presented by NABCA and Iowa and Virginia, the ABCs of Iowa and Virginia. We have with us speaking today Tanya Dusold of Iowa. Tanya is the Communications Director for the Iowa Alcohol Beverages Division. She works with the local and state media to relay information regarding operations to the public. She also writes and designs content for the division's publications, websites, and social media. Tanya leads the division's communications team, which includes internal and external communications, education and outreach, and product management. She has been with the division since 2007. We also have with us Maureen Haney. She is Public Relations Specialist for the Virginia Department of Alcohol Beverage Control. She currently manages the agency's Twitter account and is part of a public affairs team that handles internal and external communication, media relations, public outreach, website content, social media, graphic design, and everything in between. Maureen has been with the Virginia ABC since November 2011, and prior to which she held a similar position for 7 years with the State of New Mexico Office of State Engineering. And so before we begin the broadcast, I just want to cover some housekeeping tips. Our presentation today will last for about an hour. It is being recorded, and we will be able to make it available for playback through GoToMeeting. Each presenter has about 20 minutes, and we will have about 20 minutes for Q&A at the end. All callers have been muted, and if you have any questions, I invite you to look at the lower right hand or the right hand corner of the screen to type in your questions. And we are collecting the questions, and at the end of the presentation, I will come back on the call and ask the questions that you guys have submitted to our presenters who will answer them. So without further ado, again, thank you all for listening in and participating. I give the baton, so to speak, to Tanya. Tanya?
Thanks. We have a wide variety of audiences today, from people who have never used Twitter to some long-term users. So those of you who are very familiar with Twitter, hang in there. We're going to start with a very basic overview first, but that'll be brief. We'll follow that with the Iowa experience and the Virginia experience, and wrap up with what's next in the Twitter universe. So what is Twitter? Twitter is a micro-blogging social network. It's most frequently used for people to make personal updates, work updates, share links to news stories, general life observations, retweeting or sharing others' messages. You can also send direct or private messages, share photos, videos, or check in or share your location. So why tweet? The number one reason that Iowa's ABD decided to get on Twitter was customer service. Our customers and citizens are already out there on Twitter, so it really takes no special effort on their part to interact with us. It's also a very quick, affordable, or cheap way to interact with and respond to our customers and citizens. And it's constant contact. Their Twitter latest statistics is there's up to 1 million new users worldwide every day. And most active users of Twitter are checking their accounts multiple times every day, so it's really constant interaction. So how do you get started? The first thing you need to do is create a handle or a username. I would really recommend using your agency's name or a shortened version of your agency's name. We use Iowa ABD. Something easy to find, remember, and recognize for your customers and your users. You want them to be able to find you easily. The next thing that you're going to want to do is to create and upload an avatar. The avatar is basically the little symbol or picture that will show up next to your your name as you tweet on others' pages and on your own. Statistics show that users on Twitter that use pictures or have an avatar have about 10 times more followers than those who do not. Next, make sure you write your short bio. Users with bios have about 8 times more followers than users without. Following other users is the next step after you get that bio and picture and your username uploaded. You already have a lot of existing contacts that you can use to find people to follow who then hopefully in return will follow you back. Use those existing contacts like NABCA and other control state agencies, other agencies in your own state, other government agencies. Look and see who they're following and follow those same people. Also, there's something called super users. Most communities have them, people who have tens of thousands of followers. If you can find those in your community, follow them. If you can get them to follow you back and retweet some of your messages, that just exponentially increases your reach right away. After that, you want to continue to grow your network. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is to drive traffic to Twitter from other sources. And again, you already have a lot of resources to do that. Make sure you're putting links to your Twitter account on your website, on your email distribution lists, print publications. Really everything you put out should have your links to Facebook and Twitter, if not just the logos or the actual URLs. We in Iowa actually have links to all our social media on the back side of everyone's business card. So every time we pass that out, we're letting people know that we are out there on social media. The next thing that I think is really important to start, and this is one of those lessons learned that hopefully you guys can learn the easy way, create lists. And basically all that is doing is categorizing everyone that you follow. And Maureen will get into this a little bit more later. But there's on the screen you can see the list of who you're following, and right there on Twitter you can add or remove them from lists. It'll pop up the list you have created, and you can create more. You can see there, those are what we have in Iowa. We have education, prevention, social media related, companies, individuals, press, government, licensees, and industries. Lists allow for a lot better time management and ease of retweeting. We try to balance our tweets. So if I'm looking for something prevention related to send out, I can just go to that list quickly and see what's fresh and new that I can be sending out as well. What makes an effective tweet? The first thing I think is important is know your audience. And your audience is not necessarily the same for every tweet you send out. We send things specific to industry, to prevention, to government. And as we write them, thinking about who your audience is important. Also be a conduit. And what I mean by that is making you a one-stop shop or a resource for your followers. Retweeting from established, credible resources like news organizations can help that. Then they're not jumping all over Twitter trying to find information. They know they can come to you if it's alcohol related and in their state or nationwide. They can find that information right away. I also think it's important to clearly identify your tweets by using a headline essentially. You're already very short on Twitter, but people are blasted every day with literally tens of thousands of tweets. A quick statistic, it took over 3 years for the first billion tweets to be sent out, and now there's about 1 billion tweets every week. People are blasted with a lot of things, so the quick, short headline at the beginning can tell them what's it about and if that's something they're interested in. Also using hashtags, and that's the little pound sign or the number tag with keywords. People use those to watch trends, and if you incorporate those in your tweets, you're going to have more reach. People maybe not necessarily be following you, can find you via subject. Make sure you're only using ones that are relevant to the tweet you're sending out. The next thing for effective tweeting is shortening your links. Links take up valuable character space. You only get 140 characters. Many Twitter apps have this built in, so it'll automatically shorten those, but there's also a lot of free websites out there that it just takes a quick copy and paste. There used to be kind of an idea that these shortened links may not be safe. That's less prevalent now, especially if you've established yourself as a reputable to your followers. They'll trust those links. And as I said, you get 140 characters for a tweet, but I recommend only using 120. And the reason why is that allows for easy retweeting of your messages by others, especially on mobile devices. They click one button, it says we retweet. It'll add your handle there in the RT, which means retweet, and it'll still keep them under 140 characters without them having to shuffle around and figure out how to edit that to fit the space. I'm going to turn it over to Maureen right now for some more of the simple starter tips from Virginia.
So now that Tanya has gone over the basics, I'd like to give you a little information on how Virginia ABC has found the best ways to manage this monster we call Twitter. We manage our account by using a social media dashboard, monitoring streams and lists, analytics, and avoiding getting spammed is also a very important part of that. So what is a social media dashboard? Oops, my mouse is not, there it is, okay. So a social media dashboard allows you to use multiple social networks on one screen. So you can actually link Facebook, Twitter, all of that. It saves time. And it also helps you organize, especially with Twitter. And it allows you to monitor multiple topics at one time, which is very handy, especially when you're dealing with that balance between the prevention and the retail side of things like we do. So here at Virginia ABC, we use Hootsuite as our social media dashboard. And there are various different ones you can use. This is the one that we've found to be the best for us. So this is a screenshot of what Hootsuite looks like. In this particular shot, you'll see all these different columns here. And in this screen, you can see the home feed, which is a running list of all the things that are tweeted by all the people that we follow. And this moves very quickly. It's constantly updating. You'll see direct mentions, which shows any tweets that specifically mention the @VirginiaABC handle. You'll see direct messages, which are private messages that followers might send us. You can also see the sent tweets here, which are any tweets that we have sent or any retweets that we have done. And if I could continue to scroll to the right, you would see that I also have more columns that we use to monitor keywords. So, for example, we follow anyone that uses the term YADAP because that is one of our youth programs. Anytime they say Virginia ABC or ABC Stores or VA ABC, those are all keywords that we have that allow us to monitor people who are talking about us even when they're not using our official handle in their tweet. And then across the top here, this is where we have tabs that allow us to categorize our lists. And the lists are what Tanya was showing you earlier. And the categories that I've chosen that are helpful for me, for example, I have industry, which is where I follow lists, people like our licensees, wineries, breweries, that kind of thing. Then I have an education tab where I follow MAD, Drive Smart, any kind of prevention or education entities. The media tab, which is self-explanatory. Organizations, we follow colleges and universities and other state agencies. And then you'll see here too that, you know, this is where Facebook comes into play if you wanted to use that as well. So then let's try and get to the next screen. So, whoops. Okay, so here just I showed where the column on the side pops out just so you could kind of see what was here. The streams is the screen that we're on right now, and then you can use this to check your analytics, and then this button, this little head right here is what will take you to your contacts. So when you want to send a tweet from Hootsuite, first of all, as Tanya was mentioning, it's a good idea to shorten your links. So you can cut and paste a link into this area right here, hit shrink. Hootsuite will shrink it for you, and then you can type your tweet and it will go out with a little link right here. In the event that you wanted to, this area right here is where you put in that you want to send it from your Twitter account. You could also click your Facebook account and send it all to one all at once if you wanted to do that. So, and then those lists that we are referring to, in order to make new lists, you click here which says Add Stream, and once you do that, you get this screen. And you'll see some of the lists that we have here: law enforcement, media, wine, and so forth. And you just create a new list, and then the list will be in your contacts when you click on that. And I'll show you how you add that to the list in a minute. This is also where you would develop your streams with keywords, and you can also search from this window right here. So on the next screen, this is what you see when you go into the contacts, and you'll see my lists right here. So let's say I wanted, don't text and drive to be under my prevention and control list. All I would have to do is just drag that into there, drop it in, and then every time don't text and drive tweet something, then it will show up in my prevention and control list, and it makes it easier to categorize and monitor all of those things. So then that begs the question, why do we feel the need to monitor all these different entities? Well, there are lots of reasons, obviously, but for us, I would say the most important 3 reasons are customer service, education, and enforcement. Customer service, we've had instances where, one of our licensees or our establishments has had a complaint, and rather than coming to us with it, they just sort of tweet about it, and we can catch it, and then we can maybe tell the people that might be able to make things better, and they can give those people a call. I mean, it's just sort of an immediate customer service need that's being met, and if we weren't monitoring that, we might not even know that our customers are unhappy with us. And then, of course, the education component goes without saying. We monitor what other people are tweeting about. We learn about what's going on in the industry, both in the retail and prevention side. And we also, emphasize our education components and our events and things like that. And then for enforcement, I actually have an example. This is one of my favorites that I thought I would share with you on how monitoring Twitter can be useful on the enforcement side. So here's Allie. And Allie has decided to tweet with pride about sending her dad to the ABC store to stock up for the semester. So you'll see this tweet right here: sending my dad on ABC store run to stock up on a few bottles to start the year off right. Hashtag love him. So this piqued my interest just a little bit, so I decided to dive a little deeper into Allie's profile, and I noticed her pictures, her images down here, and she was kind enough to post a photo on Twitter of her children's license, which had her date of birth, telling me she was only 19, and her full name and address, and in big red highlight it said under 21 until August 2014. So Allie was very accommodating. I didn't even have to do the math. And some other details I learned was that she was a sophomore at Longwood University, her sorority, when she was going to be arriving back on campus. And, of course, my main concern was that Allie's dad was buying a bunch of alcohol for underage sorority girls. So long story short, I called our agent who deals with that university, and he was very excited to meet Allie on her first day back to college. And she also assisted us by posting a photo of all of the bottles of alcohol that her father had purchased for her. So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In fact, it's no wonder that Allie doesn't have her information set to private, because neither does her father. So here's a picture of her dad. He's probably on the way to the ABC store as we speak. So that's just a quick example of how we have used Twitter to sort of help our enforcement in underage drinking. So the next thing is analytics. So Hootsuite is a good place to go for analytics. Depending on what you're interested in, we use the basic Hootsuite, but you can also pay to get upgraded and get more detailed information but you know, as it stands with the basic one, we are able to see how many people click on our links, number of followers, number of mentions, and our reach, all things that can be useful in determining how you're getting your message out there. And safe tweeting, basically just don't click on anything that you think is out of the ordinary. If it looks strange, it probably is. And I have an example here. These are two people that we follow and that follow us who sent us direct messages, and their accounts have been hacked. And this is just an example of a weird thing. Hey, this user is making up dreadful things about you, and then they encourage you to click that link. Best idea is not to. If it looks, like I said, if it looks a little shady, it's best. And if you click on something and it prompts you to enter any information about your account, like your email or password, don't do it, because they're phishing to try and hack your account and do this to other people. And we did learn the hard way on that one. So there I'm going to turn it back over to Tanya for some Iowa experience.
Thanks, Maureen. Iowa has been on Twitter since early 2009, and our methods and our opinion on how we want to use it has grown over the years. So right now, our biggest use for Twitter is to promote positive messages that we have, and also to respond to negativity or misconceptions that people are posting out there about our agency or the state. Primarily, though, we do use it to post news links and updates to both industry and prevention education related messages. We also constantly are having conversations with licensees. They know they can message us. We're on there all the time, and we'll get back to them really, really quickly. A lot of conversations with licensees. We also use it to promote joint messages. And what I mean by that is other control states or NABCA or other state agencies in Iowa, like the Iowa Department of Public Health, get their message out there in hopes that they'll return the favor. We also try to promote joint messages that we have with local and national prevention groups, and we cover tobacco too. We also use Twitter to drive traffic to our website. We have a lot of different resources on our website, and we will tweet directly to those resources, such as our server online e-learning course, safety messages, press releases, educational materials like printable posters or tips and talking points to talk to your kids about alcohol, the cost of DUIs, and we strategically kind of time those, spread those out so people know those resources are available on our website. We get a lot of hits through that. We also use it to drive traffic back and forth between Twitter and Facebook, trying to catch people on both of those social media outlets. We also use it before, during, and after events. This summer we partnered with the local zoo for an event that they have. It's called Zoo Brew. Essentially every Wednesday night in the summer, they shut down the zoo to children and open it up to 21 and older. Have beer and wine samples and live music, and you wander around the zoo and see the animals. We partnered with them to have a designated driver booth. So every Wednesday before we'd go, we'd send out tweets saying, we'll be at Zoo Brew tonight. Come and visit the designated driver table. Register to win a prize. We tweeted pictures while we were at Zoo Brew of our administrator manning the booth and things like that. And then afterwards, thanks for coming out and hanging out with us. We've done the same thing when we participated in a veterans parade, and we also have an event coming up here in November that we'll start tweeting about before, as we firm up on speakers and agenda. Join us. Here's how to register. We'll tweet during the event as speakers are presenting, and I know NABCA does the same thing, and then afterwards as well. Maureen talked a little bit about Hootsuite, and that is the same tool that we use in Iowa. I have gone through a couple of different ones, TweetDeck and a few others, and Hootsuite really seems to have the whole package for us on managing those lists and tracking analytics all kind of in one stop. The great thing about, I think one of the best things about Hootsuite is it allows you to schedule your tweets. So in the morning, you can easily and quickly set up pretty much your entire day's worth of social media. You can also schedule out days, weeks, months in advance. So when April was Alcohol Awareness Month, we went out and scheduled the tweets for the entire month. So we made sure if somebody called in sick or anything like that, we were still getting those messages out, and it's just great time saver. Also, your hottest times during the day for Twitter are 9 to 11 in the morning and 1 to 3 in the afternoon. So scheduling your tweets on those high traffic times without having to remember to go back to it is very helpful. You can also schedule tweets for weekends and evenings without your staff having to work after hours or pay attention to that. Those will catch audiences that are completely different than who you're seeing on Twitter during the weekday. Scheduling also allows for an easy balance. As I schedule those tweets, you can go out and say, oh, you know, we're seeming a little heavy on industry-related things right now. We need to go find some prevention stuff and intermix that with it, too, to make sure we're balancing the types of messages we're sending out on a given day, week, or month. I do want to talk a little bit about Twitter etiquette. Twitter is a two-way conversation, and I think it's a really bad idea to ignore people that are talking to you or about you. I equate it to a customer calls into your office and has a complaint or a comment. You don't just hang up on them. You make a response in some way, shape, or form, and I think that's important. And once that conversation is started, go ahead and try to keep it going. It's also very important to be honest and transparent. Social media is the first place agencies will get called out for putting too much spin on something or not being completely honest. If it's something you feel like you need to spin a lot, it's maybe not the best message to be putting out there on social media. You will get called out very quickly. I think it's important to say thank you, and I don't usually mean that literally. Saying thank you on Twitter a lot of times is through retweeting others' messages, replying, commenting, things like that, to show that, hey, I'm aware that you're sending out, you're retweeting my messages, and I appreciate it, and I'm going to do the same for you. Again, on the ignoring things, we try not to ignore, delete, or attempt to bury negativity. Most of the time, these are opportunities to respond publicly to the negative poster. And they're not the only ones that will see it. If they say something nasty or untrue and you respond politely and correct it, not only will they see it, but a lot of other people will see it too. So if somebody was thinking that, they hadn't posted it, but now they have the right answer as well. There are instances where things are clearly inflammatory and unsolvable, and sometimes it's best to leave those alone too. The final thing for etiquette for us is to be human and write casually. I think social media is a lot more like a phone conversation with a friend than writing a press release. So be human, not just marketing, it's active listening, engaging, and responding to customers. I'm going to send it back over to Maureen again, and she's going to cover a few more specifics on how Virginia is using Twitter too.
So we pretty much share the same philosophy as Iowa and echo what Tanya just said, but a little bit more about our philosophy. You know, when she says, you know, be human, I use the word hip, but be hip, be social, find balance is very important, especially for us being, you know, part retail and then part education and prevention. Sort of, you know, getting a nice balance of messages in there. Learn to pick your battles. Sometimes you just can't win an argument with some of these people, and then kind of avoid having an opinion. You have to remember that, you know, you are the agency. People see the logo out there. They don't see the human behind it. So an example of being hip. And when I use the word hip, I mean as hip as you can be being with a government agency. So, you know, just have a little fun with it. This tweet, I just showing this as an example because this link got clicked on substantially more than a lot of other links that we had and retweeted quite a bit. And if you can't read it, even chickens can suffer when you don't drink responsibly. I mean, I think just the use of chickens and drinking responsibly in the same tweet piqued people's interest, so it encouraged them to click on it. And then being social, like Tanya was saying, Twitter is a two-way communication tool. It's not just a place for us to post stuff and leave it alone. The way to be social is linking, engaging, and sharing. And as she also said, it's Twitter courtesy to give others recognition by using their handles, and then you hope for the same in return. So this example just kind of shows where we tweeted about an employee that was going to appear on a local TV network, and we used the station's handle. And we tweeted that to our more than 2,000 followers, and then in return they retweeted, and in the click of a button we hit another 10,000 followers because they had a very wide reach. So, and I like this particular one because their answer was sort of cute and personable. They, come on, they said please. So I liked that example. And then what she was saying about, people can just be inflammatory, and you do have to learn to pick your battles. This was an example of we had stopped a club from having a performer because he was related with gangs, and this person was not particularly happy about it. And so they, in the matter of, I don't know, a few minutes, they sent about 7 nasty tweets. And we decided not to poke the bear on this one, so to speak, and just let them vent and move on. And sure enough, it was over shortly, and I don't think anybody really remembers it, and we haven't heard from this person again. So we just chose not to respond to this one. And then as far as lessons learned, for us, as I'm sure it is with a lot of you, the Twitter has been on-the-job training, and we've learned a few lessons along the way. In this example, ABC tweeted a link to an article about a pending case involving a man who allegedly performed a striptease. The case was ongoing, and the tweet garnered some interest, probably because the word striptease was in it. But whatever the reason, the man who was on trial didn't appreciate us posting it because it was an article that had maybe a little bit of a slant to it, and the case hadn't been fully adjudicated yet. So we realized that he had a very valid point, and ABC kind of came up with some rules after that, not to tweet any coverage of a case that has not been fully adjudicated yet. And we try and link directly to a press release that we've issued rather than linking people to coverage in the event that it would be slanted or have an opinion of any sort. And of course we do retweet articles all the time, but we make sure that we cite the source, and we are very picky about the ones that we put up there. We avoid opening that can of worms, so to speak. So on that note, I will give it back to Tanya to finish up.
So if you've decided to make the leap and get your agency on Twitter, what's next? I think once you get signed up, the ongoing, like I said, we've been on for 4 years or so, you got to continue to grow your network. Social media is not going away. Continue to grow and increase your reach. Do that by, again, driving traffic from other sources. Give people motivation to stay. People want to know or see what's in it for them to follow you. And also personalize it. Hit all your audiences. Make sure you're trying to balance between industry, prevention, local information, the general public at varying times of the day. Increase your conversations by replying to others. That'll get you more followers as well. And not everything must be relevant to your mission, and that'll help expand your audience. We started out very strict and dry, and we're trying to change that now. Humor is the #1 thing that will make something go viral online. So like Maureen's example of the chicken story, using things like that is going to vastly increase your reach. Now you may get a little bit of backlash on, a government employee is spending time to tell us about a guy who got drunk and accidentally killed his chickens, but it's worth it to be out there and growing that network all the time. The other next thing I think that is big is social media policies are becoming very common. Iowa has a statewide social media policy, and at ABD we're working on an agency-specific policy. Pretty much the only reason we don't have one at this point in time is there's only 2 of us that have access to it at all, and we've been doing it for quite a while, but it is in the process. Policies can cover both professional and personal use. There's a little controversy over the personal use of things, but it's important also to cover when it is and is not appropriate to speak on behalf of the organization and be clear on that definition. Sometimes an employee is not intending to be speaking for the company on their own, but it can be perceived that way. And also clearly define in a social media policy the information that employees may never share on social networks, which would be confidential information. I know some agencies specifically say never to use employee names, things like that. Be specific on who can create or have access to those official accounts. That can even include how often passwords are changed and the use of agency computers for social networking. Defining how the agency will or will not interact with other users is a good thing to include on social media policies. And posting a notice of how, when, and why user content would be deleted from agency pages can save you headaches sometimes down the road. And the final thing on social media policy is kind of define your content, what is and isn't appropriate to post. And by that I mean, sometimes there's a fine line. In Iowa, we don't post product specials or drink recipes, but we're also not in the retail business like a lot of you guys are. So where it may be appropriate for Pennsylvania to do that, less so maybe for us. So defining those things in your social media policies can make it easier and run smoother from the very beginning. The Twitterverse, on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see kind of a galaxy, and every single one of those little circles are an app or a service that is related to Twitter. It can be very overwhelming. There are services for mobile Twitter, dashboards, marketing, analytics, CRM, event management, advertising, marketing, the list goes on and on and on. We really only use about 3 of those. We use Twitter specifically, we use Dashboard, Hootsuite like we've talked about, and then Twitter mobile. Don't let that overwhelm you. You don't need to know every single one of those or be using any of them. Do what works for you. Don't get overwhelmed by everything that's out there. And the last thing on what's next is targeted accounts. So we have had our Iowa ABD account for a number of years. We are considering now having an entirely different account that is specific to education and prevention. Like Maureen said, sometimes we have state agencies who have both the sale, either wholesale and or retail, plus an education prevention component, can get some backlash depending on what we're putting out there from one side or the other. So we're considering it. We have not jumped in to do that, but it's a possibility for the future. Okay, so to wrap up for best practices, set up your profile, include your picture, bio, location, your website, your branding. The more of that you do, the more followers you'll end up with, a more authentic account. Respond, retweet, and start conversations. Balance information with fun. Curate your tweets with headlines and hashtags. And don't forget, you can't soar until you leave the nest. Go ahead and make that list, or make that jump and get out there. So thank you so much for participating in today's webinar. Maureen and I hope that you feel a little more confident about tweeting and know that you have both of us as a resource to get you started. There's our Twitter handles and our emails. Feel free to call us or email us. Message us on Twitter if you want any advice or need any help as you get moving on. Maggie's going to take back over right now, and I think we'll be covering any questions that people have submitted through the webinar chat portal.
Yes, thank you very much, Tanya. Questions that I have here, like how do you prioritize what social media platform is best to be on? I mean, you talked about so many of them that are out there, you know, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, there's also YouTube, although I know we're specific to Twitter today. But how do you prioritize which is the best one to be?
This is Tanya. I can kind of cover that. When we decided to go ahead and get on social media in 2009, Facebook and Twitter were definitely the top ones out there, and I think that's still true today. I know several agencies have had great success on YouTube, and I think that's a good one too. But primarily, I know there's LinkedIn, there's Pinterest, there's a million of them. I think the best place to start is Facebook and or Twitter, in my opinion. Maureen?
I agree. I mean, we also have a YouTube account. We use that primarily, though, when we have videos. We link from our Facebook to the YouTube account, or from Twitter to YouTube for if we have PSAs or anything of that nature. But I agree that Twitter and Facebook are where it's at least for the next 5 minutes anyway. So,
Right.
Okay. Just want to remind listeners that there is a questions section on the right side, and you can type in your questions and hit submit, and we will get the questions and we'll ask and answer them for you. Another question with regard to Twitter and being out there, are you identified as yourself, or are you identified as the agency?
This is Maureen. You are the agency. I mean, you're putting on the face of the agency now. You may have seen, like on my Hootsuite, you saw my name all over it, but that doesn't go out at all. They just see the ABC logo when we tweet.
Iowa does the same. It's specific to the agency. You don't know if it's me or Erin sending the things out there, and where you can see that it's just back-end stuff. I do have personal accounts for both Twitter and Facebook, and yes, they are private.
So you kind of separate the two, although did they change it where you could use the same email address, or you have one that comes to work, and then your separate one is the one that goes personally to your home email, right?
For
you
Twitter,
can have as an individual, you can have a business page or a government page that you basically are the administrator of, but you switch back and forth. And Hootsuite allows you to have multiple streams going, so you could, in theory, have your personal Facebook, the work Facebook, the multiple Twitter accounts and everything. That would just make me caution you to be really careful about which one you're sending things out from.
Okay. All right. So the other question is the social media policy that you made reference to. Do you have that available at all? Could you make it available, or?
Yeah, the state of Iowa policy is actually in place, and I could send that to Maggie, who can distribute it out to the committees too. Like I said, the Iowa ABD specific one is still in progress, but I'd be willing to, if you want to message me or email you, send you in draft form as well.
Okay. All right.
And likewise with Virginia, our policy is done, our agency one, but it's based on the state one with very little variances, but we would be happy to send that around if that would be useful.
Okay. I'll email you both and ask for them, and we'll send it out to the attendees participating today. Okay, just again to remind everyone, if you have any questions, there is that question bar on the right. You just click on it and type in your question and hit the send, and I'll ask it on your behalf. Okay. Any more questions from anyone? Tanya, Maureen, any other parting comments or thoughts to share with folks?
Thanks to the participants who came in today, and like we said, we're both more than happy to be a resource if you've got questions before you start or as you get started. Feel free to email us or message us. The best we can do is share our experiences, and hopefully you can learn from some of the lessons we had to learn the hard way.
Yeah, likewise here, and please follow us on Twitter.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Appreciate your time, Tanya and Maureen. And thank you all for tuning in and listening. As I said, we recorded this webinar, and we will have it available for playback at your convenience. I believe it's a feature I'm going to be able to take advantage of with the GoToWebinar. And if there are no other questions, I again thank you all very much, and you have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you. Bye.